Welcome to the Local
724 podcast.
in 3, 2, 1.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Local Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Hauser, and today with me I have Tricia Seil of Healthy Accounting. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad to have you in to talk about something that is pretty important, I think, to my audience and me, obviously, as an entrepreneur. You're an accountant, obviously, Healthy Accounting. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. I am an accountant. I'm not a CPA, so I do the bookkeeping and accounting work for startup companies and also for small businesses. And I tend to work with, like I said, either startup companies or with people that might have like up to 15 or 20 employees. It's usually about the size where I go to, and that's a good market for me.
That's really awesome. So do you work with people even less than that, say one employee?
Absolutely. I do. I have a lot of single sole proprietors that I work with. And that's a huge part of why I started this company, was just to be able to work with that smaller market. From what I was seeing in my experience, that is a market that tends to get left out when it comes to accounting, or they're trying to keep it all going and they don't necessarily know what they're doing. Yeah. So I wanted to come alongside and help them with that and help them get it right.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about the name. How did the name end up being what it is?
Sure. So Healthy Accounting, I chose it because it is so important to have your books be healthy and also to have your business be financially healthy. The one of the things that I saw in the history of my experience, I've been in accounting for about 20 years, and I was in a public accounting firm for about 10 years and then became a controller for the last 7 years. And the things that I saw the most was that people just kind of start into business and they don't necessarily think about what is happening financially. And then, something will happen and they're not really prepared for it. Or even the larger companies don't really set themselves up to be prepared. So that was the main reason why I named it Healthy, was just to get your books healthy and then also to have your company be financially healthy, so that when the unexpected things like COVID, but not, right. I wasn't expecting it to be as huge as COVID.
Right.
So those are the things that I was trying to help people get in place, and still am definitely working to help them get those things in place.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Just the idea that, healthy accounting. We were talking a little bit before the show, and I was telling you that, I've always had this idea that I wanted to run a business, and, this was the part. This is the scary part. This is the, when you put a creative in a situation like this, unless you're like one of those weird hybrids that uses both sides of their brains, I'm the guy that's just like, I know a lot about making videos and making commercials and doing all of that. What scared me to death was just like these numbers, these rules, all this stuff that was like, well, I don't want to get myself into trouble because I don't know enough about this.
Right.
And that really did kind of delay this process for me for a couple of years. And now looking back on it, it's a little silly to think that, that's what did it. That's what delayed me, because, you always want to, the biggest thing that I learned, I think, in running my own business is you want to reach out to the experts in their field.
Right.
And really take advantage of your skills, because, if I am sitting here trying to do everything, then, could I do my books? Could I figure out how to do it? Probably. Get on YouTube and I'll try and figure out how to do it. But when I'm doing that and I'm wasting my time doing what you already know how to do,
right,
I'm not doing what I know how to do.
Right.
And, you know what I mean?
And the things that you can really make the money at.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not bringing any more business, any new business, or any money into the business while I'm trying to learn your skill set.
Exactly.
It's pointless.
Right.
So, I mean, for somebody in my position, a bunch of entrepreneurs listen to the show. I've had a lot on the show. I don't know where their skill sets lie. I have no idea as far as whether their books are all straight up or not. But, it's really, it's one of those things that everybody should really, once you get past the point of that nervousness of running a business, these are the things. This is like a doctor's appointment. You have to have healthy checkups,
right?
And just what, I can let go of that and allow somebody else to do it,
right?
The business is making money. I can take some of that and pay for somebody to do this for me.
Sure, and that's why I let the tax part of it be for tax accountants. I stay focused on the bookkeeping and the beginning part of the accounting. So the financial statements, the budgets, and the cash flow. And the reason why I do that is because I really want to work and partner with each of the business owners and with each of the companies and let them know what their numbers are telling them. That's a big part, is that so many times in the accounting industry, you're so busy just pumping out the tax returns and pumping out the financial statements that those numbers are telling you something. And it's really important to be able to understand what it's telling you in the past, and then also to lay out what's happening for the future. One of the things that I do with my customers is, once we have their books all organized and once we know that things are classified correctly, I take and I set up a budget. And the reason that I do that is that's the first thing that gives a visual of, where am I going to end up profit-wise, or am I even breaking even? That's what I'm doing with some of my very startup levels, is let's just get to the point of breaking even, because they might have jumped into it a little bit sooner than what they really knew what to expect or anything. So we focus on, let's just get to break even, and then we'll build from there. And the budget and the cash flow definitely help people see that.
For sure. I mean, I think that there's so many different ways that people go into business that I've learned. You know what I mean? Everybody thinks that you need to take out a loan and you have to owe all this money and things. And that was something that I didn't want to do. So that was another reason that I waited for an extra couple of years. I bought all of my equipment outright, and I've been paying for cash or my debit card or whatever for equipment for years and years and years. And I've just been building up this massive arsenal of equipment. And that was good for me, because when I started, then I had zero overhead.
Right.
I don't have any.
Right.
I'm going to soon, moving on to a new studio space. But it just, I didn't really have to take because cameras, I mean, geez, oh man. Talk about technology. I mean, we're moving into 8K,
right?
And I just joined the 4K club,
okay,
just a little bit ago. So it's cameras can be $15,000-$20,000,
right?
And that's pretty scary, when you think about doing that. So it's just the less overhead you have, I think the better position that you're definitely going to be in,
right?
So at that point, to have you come in and say here is a budget of, what you can afford to do, because, you sit there and you get scary, and, you're starting this business and you're making money, and then you're like, wait a minute. So I do have some money in the bank, but I don't want to spend it. I don't want to do anything. I worked really hard to get all that. So you let it sit there, or at least that's what I'm doing. So it's just it's kind of hard. I don't want to part with any of it.
Right. Just as a little bit of a security net. And I think that a security net is a good thing, just because, for example, when COVID happened, if you have maybe 3 to 6 months of just some operating expenses put aside, you think about how when COVID happened and the entire society shut down, it was extremely scary.
Oh yeah.
And to have that energy of the fear on top of you, of trying to think, how do I even run my business, which is supporting me and supporting my family?
Yeah.
you have to have a little bit of a cushion just so that you know, okay, I have this set aside so that I can at least pause and think of what I need to do to keep my business afloat, which is keeping me and my family afloat.
Right.
So a little bit of a safety net is definitely a good thing to have. And that's another thing that once my customers start breaking even, that's one of the first things that I definitely work with them on, because I want them to have that time to be able to think and to start just even to dream. It doesn't have to be on the panic side of things. I want my customers to be able to dream. You know, that's why you're going into business. That's why you're spending this time and this energy, is to be able to dream and put your message out there. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, dreaming that's what got us here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so awesome. Can you like walk me through a typical first meeting or first consult with you? Like what would a first meeting with you look like?
So when I do meet with somebody for the first time, one of the big things that I do ask is, how long have you been in business? Why did you start to go into business? And then if they've been in business for a couple of years or, many years, then I want to know, what are they wanting to do now? Because it's really important that I understand the why behind it. For instance, I was meeting with an initial meeting the other day with a potential customer, and she said to me, "You're probably just here to look at the numbers. That's the only thing that's important to you." And I said, "No." And in fact, I take all the businesses that I work with, I take them to heart. When I see them struggling, sometimes I lose sleep over it, because it's like, that's their business. And it's so important for me to get that information across to them. Like, things aren't necessarily looking as glassy or wonderful as you think they are. And we've got to get things moving. So it's really important for me to understand that. Why are they in business, and why are they spending their time and energy? And then I tend to find out, what are the pain points. Some people just want a little bit of a partnership. They just want somebody to come alongside with them. And for instance, I have an entrepreneur level that I call kind of my first package. And that's where I would meet with somebody just on a monthly basis or every other month. And just to make sure that they're getting things classified correctly. And also, just to find out what their goals are, and to look forward and to help them reach those goals. I also will help them get their financial statement tied in and everything, to make sure that it's ready for that tax return that comes at the end of the year. So some people want really just a tiny bit of help, and that's perfectly fine. I can do that. Then I'll have like a middle package, which, I don't know if you want me to talk about those yet, or
sure, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So the middle package that I have is like a core package, and that is for the businesses that might have a little bit more money to spend, but they also need to still have their hands in it, because maybe for budget reasons, or just for they still like the control. Some of my customers still enjoy writing out the checks, because it gives them a good feeling that they can do that.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. I always try to tailor it to what the customer wants and what they need. And so that second package will give we still make sure that things are tied in correctly and that things are classified correctly. And then I do work with them on a budget, and to give them their first visual of what will happen moving forward. It tends to be, when I show people a budget, it's like, oh, so this is what it's going to look like ahead of time.
Right.
It's not so much in the past like a financial statement is.
Yeah.
And then I'll also work with them on the cash flow, so that they can understand why maybe a profit and loss statement is showing that they have $20,000 in profit, but they look at their checking account and they have $2 to their name. So that's where cash flow comes into play. So that's just a middle level one that still allows the customer to have some hands on to it. and then also allows me to be a little bit more involved than what that entrepreneur level does. And then the last package I call a premier package, and that's for the business owners that really need it taken off their plate.
Yeah.
They can be making money and doing the things that they love to do. For some reason, I find that people don't really care for the accounting part. So,
No.
so I love taking that over and being able to help them and then just come back to them and explain what the numbers are saying and help them get to those goals and work on the budget again and the cash flow and everything. So it's definitely working with them, but at whatever level they can afford and whatever level they want me to be involved.
Yeah. I think it probably matches up even with a growth thing.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like in the beginning, well, you probably can't afford much,
Right.
Being young and new. And then, as you get more comfortable, like I just said earlier, like kind of letting go of those things.
Right.
I'm sitting here thinking, just the other day I was talking about bringing on another editor, somebody to edit videos, because like I'm working on other projects, and there's just this part of me that is like, well, okay, maybe I'll do it on the next project because I'm already kind of into this one. I have my style. I know what I'm doing. I can't take the time to explain it to somebody else. That's me not being able to let go of my flow, my my ideals, whatever.
Right.
And but I think that as you grow, as you get bigger, you have to open yourself up to growth.
Right.
You absolutely have to, or you're stuck.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know what I mean? Yeah, nobody likes numbers. I especially in my close-knit crew.
There's one.
Right? Yeah. I personally, I'm not good at math. Not good at math at all. How did you get into this? Did you enjoy this as a kid?
In a sick way. So I struggled as a student in school.
Really?
Until I got to my business classes in 10th grade. And I really, really struggled. Just couldn't find anything that I could really attach to. And in 10th grade, I took my first accounting course. Ugh. And and it was like the heavens had opened.
Really? Oh my
And
God.
it was just like, it just spoke to me, and I was like, there's something that flows, like there is a cycle to this. That was a big part of why I struggled in school, actually, was we realized it afterwards, was I have to understand the entire picture of what's going on, which is another reason why I think whenever I work with businesses, I have to get in and see the entire picture. And that was one thing that when I worked at the accounting firm, we were so busy with taxes and we were so busy just keeping things moving that was why I left, was so that I could get into a business more and see the big picture.
Yeah.
So in 10th grade was my first class, and it was it. But I knew that when I graduated from high school, I wasn't quite ready for what I knew accounting to require, like a 4-year degree, and I pictured the huge universities and everything to go to, and I knew that I was not ready for that. So I happened to look into fashion merchandising because I loved shopping and I loved business, which the merchandising part of it does the business. Like, so many people will be like, oh, you can draw and you design, and it's like, no, I'm on the business side of fashion.
Buying.
Right. The buying part of it and everything. So that was the first direction that I went, and I went to a 2-year school in Atlanta. And during my 20s, that was what I did, was fashion and everything. And then life ended up putting me in West Virginia, which I was at a point, well, fashion's probably not going to help me a whole lot here.
Yeah,
and
maybe not.
I was working for a company that did some tuition reimbursement, and I was like, this is the time to go back to school and get my accounting degree. And so I did that, and life brought me back to Pennsylvania, and had a wonderful boss who even before I was to the point of having my full accounting degree, brought me in and just let me work up right through his company. And it was a great opportunity and I loved it. And I still like, people were like, how can you like accounting? And I absolutely love it.
You just told me your story and I still don't understand it. I'm just like, it was actually, I think my senior year, I took accounting. That was one of those things that I tried to hold off to the very end. And I didn't do really well in high school at all. Like that was pretty close to the bottom of the number there. And accounting, I went in, I sat there, I tried doing a ledger or something. Tried doing that. I immediately went down to my guidance counselor and I was like, look, man, I'm going to college for art. Put me in another art class, get me out of here. And it was like a big to-do. I had to go in front of a committee, all this stuff to like get out of accounting. And
I'm surprised you could get out of it.
Yeah, it was insane. They were just, I think they probably looked at me and they were just like, you know what, just let the kid get. Like, I mean, my senior year wasn't awesome. So it just, when I went to college, I didn't really have to do, any accounting or business. I didn't think I was going to be taking business classes or anything like that. So it wasn't a big deal. But yeah, it just, I don't know. It doesn't work for me. I just can't do it.
And that's okay. That's why there's people
Absolutely.
like me, and I could never do what you do. So
that's why you have to lean on people's, skill set and their profession, because like, I mean, you always, when you're young, I think you always get this idea that if you're running a business, you're doing all of it.
Right.
Way back in the day, me and my mom decided that we wanted to open a pizza place and like craft beer 6-pack shop and a bar and things like that. And I was sitting there talking about like running this business for the longest time. I went to the Small Business Development Center at St. Vincent and we took classes and we talked about it. And what the gentleman, the counselor who took us on, what he told me was, he said, it really actually sounds like you want to be a chef, not a business owner. And I was like, well, I mean, like, same deal. And he was like, not really. He was like, you have to worry about your business. He was like, you're sitting here talking about like different recipes. Like you're super amped on like hanging out and cooking and doing all this stuff. And I was like, dude, you're 100% right. Like that is what I wanted. I want to cook. I want to, make my connections and relationships like, in the bar area and things like that.
Right.
And, so it definitely made us rethink that whole plan.
Yeah. That's like, so many of the times I do have people, I've even had like CPAs say to me, well, anybody can do bookkeeping. And it's like, to some degree, anybody can put information in, but you have to realize that if that information isn't correct, you're basing every single one of your business decisions on that incorrect information.
Yeah.
And you'll be sitting there thinking, why is this not working? And it's something that is just the first step, which is the bookkeeping. That has to be correct. And that's where I can come in and just help make sure that that's correct, and then help you understand so that you can see where you've been and where you're going. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's really hard, I think. And probably I would be willing to bet there's probably so many other people that haven't taken the leap into being an entrepreneur because of this, just because of this. Like if somebody would have came up to me and said, hey, you'll be okay doing what you know how to do.
Right.
You'll be all right. Go for it.
Right.
If they would have told me that 10 years ago, I'd have been like, all right, cool. I'm doing it. I'm doing it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I didn't feel comfortable enough to start my business until 2017, the end of 2017. So, it's just, it's scary.
And was it pretty much that life forced you into it at that point, or? It
was just like, it almost felt like it was time. I'd had all these big corporate video jobs, and, it was really fun. I learned a lot, just like you were talking about your previous experience with your last job. Like it was like that. I went through all those jobs and I learned so much. And it got to the point where me as a person, I really don't jive too well with management and bosses telling me what to do all the time. So I just was like, you know what, I can't live like this. Like I can't just have people telling me what to do constantly. And at that level, making videos, you know, you go to college thinking like, hey, I'm going to make these videos. I want to be creative. I want to create things.
Right.
At that level, it's too much like an assembly line. You know, people were like, hey, I need this video. This is exactly what it has to look like. This is exactly what they have to say. You get it. And at that point, you're just a hired gun. You're not doing anything. You're not putting any input into it. So, you know, that's kind of something that you have to deal with. That's how you make money. You know, if, you know, a giant corporation were to hit me up, I don't know, last week and say, hey, can you make us this video and send me a giant script? I'm not going to say no because I don't get to create. I'm going to say, hell yeah, I'm going to take your money and give you an amazing video. But those are the products and the projects that, you know, they're there to make you money. And then you have your passion projects. Those are things that, you know, you get to go out and do and have fun and, you know, make yourself.
Right.
You know, those are awesome things. So it's just like there was this part of me that was just like, look, I can't do this anymore. So I had to, I was unhappy, you know, and it was like reflecting on my relationship and things like that. My wife finally just was like, look, you gotta stop. You can't go there anymore.
You've got to try.
And so it happened.
Yeah.
And I'm happy it did.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's
I'm
good.
a completely different person at this point.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. The other thing that I find too is that a lot of the times business owners are embarrassed to even bring it forward, especially because at the state where I might first come in, things can be extremely disorganized.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I'm an open book. I mean, I'll tell you, you know, having a business for 3 years, at that point, I mean, ups, downs, the whole 9 yards. I mean, there's times where, you know, in a month, I'll make a lot of money. And then there's times where there's been months where I didn't make any money.
Right.
I actually spent money.
Right.
So it was just like, oh boy. And that's the thing. I think maybe like, you know, like you just said, it was almost an exact question I had. Like, do people kind of get, you know, embarrassed to say like, well, here it is.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And I've gotten, like, I will say, you can literally hand me a shoebox. I'm perfectly fine with that. I went into a client's office one time just for an initial meeting, and just because of the disorganization, it was like, I just want to start right now. And he was like, you can, you know, and I literally spent like that day then working with him and have been working with him. But I'm like, that's what I love. Like, let me get it organized for you. I've gone into cases where there's been theft in a business. And so
yikes.
things will be just a total disorganization.
Yeah.
And those are other situations where I'm like, don't worry, you know, there is absolutely no judgment. And I think that that's something that anybody in an accounting environment, you've seen a lot. And so there's nothing that will surprise us. And I would so much rather somebody take the step to bring me into their business and let me get it organized for them, and then to stay embarrassed and to stay in the dark and everything. And I think that's a big part of it, is just that people feel like there's so much judgment, and there's not. It's just, it's important for you to understand what's going on and everything. And I have absolutely no judgment. And that's something with my company, is that it's really important that I want you to understand. I want you to feel healthy about your business, because when you do, you're going to be able to propel and just move forward. And that's what we need. So
yeah, you get to grow past that embarrassment, and it's a thing. It's all about growth. It's that's like a huge buzzword on this show. It's just, you know, we're always talking about that in different ways. And, you know, to to have you go in there and, use your talents to basically put the person at ease, and then give them an understanding of what it is that they need to do. You're basically drawing us a map saying like, okay, now you can focus, or you need to focus on bringing in new business,
Right.
or, how often does this client, how often do they come back? Like how many videos
Repeat
or whatever.
visits.
So it's like, that's a great thing. That's something that, I feel people should not be embarrassed about. It's, I mean, I think that the fact that you took the leap in the first place is major kudos to anyone that did it.
Yeah.
It is one of the scariest, hardest things in the world. Like, I honestly don't care if you're not breaking even or anything. If you're hustling and you are out there making your own decisions for your life, you're the coolest person in the world to me.
Right. And that's the other thing that I enjoy doing is just sitting there with a customer and brainstorming, because I'm coming into it from the outside. So I'm not as, in every single day of it.
Yeah.
That's another part of it, is that I'm not there every single day. And that helps you be able to afford it and everything. But it is an outside view to sit there and bounce thoughts off of and everything. And is this a profitable thing for me to even be doing? And that's what the customers will come to me and say, here's an idea, is this even profitable for me? And if it's not, what can we do to make it profitable? Or is it something that we just need to throw out and find a better idea?
Yeah.
So
that's fantastic, because I mean, there are certain things that you would think, hey, maybe I could do this. Maybe this would be profitable. And, you always need somebody to bounce those ideas off of,
Right.
because the ratio of putting the energy into what you get out of it is sometimes just, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So, but to take an idea, to mold it, to innovate on it, and turn it into something that you possibly could be, then that's amazing.
Right.
Like, that's fantastic.
Right. And I think too, as business owners, one of the things that I've learned, and just even with working with my customers and everything, is things definitely take longer than you think that they're going to take to get them rolling. And in some ways it's really good. It gives you time to tweak things. And, if you make a mistake, it's not like it's put out there in front of the whole entire world or anything.
Right.
But it does give you some time. The world kind of forces you to go a little bit slower than I think a lot of entrepreneurs like to do.
Right.
So
everybody lives that Instagram lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, they think that's what that is.
And
It's
business
like,
goes, no.
No. Like, you don't decide, hey, I'm going to take this leap and then end up in a private jet flying to Bali or something,
Right.
like every weekend, like they show you on Instagram.
Or if you do, reality comes back to you really fast.
Like, hey, you overdrafted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. What it sounds like what you do is exactly what most of my audience needs. I'm sure that there's a lot of them who are, very successful businesses that have their, they already know how to do some of this stuff. But,
Right.
If you're struggling for time and things like that, you really have to, and I talk with them about this all the time. Like, we always say, like, hey, utilize somebody else's skills. It's so worth it.
Right.
I mean, and that's what I tell people when I'm in a consult with them. I'm like, yeah, you could get on YouTube and you could go buy a camera and you could learn how to shoot and light and edit and make good audio and write a script and do all that stuff. You could figure this out.
Right.
It's going to take you forever, and whatever you're not doing over here is going to suffer.
Right.
So,
And do you want to, if it's something that you don't enjoy, do you really want to
Yeah.
spend your time doing that?
Like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody was going to say, like, hey, come learn how to do accounting, like, I'm good. I don't want to do it.
I did that in 12th grade. I'm good.
Yeah. I actually stood in front of a committee and left that
Yeah.
because I'm so good. Yeah.
I was above them. I moved on from that now.
I would much rather go draw my pictures for an extra period out of the day.
And I'm like, let me go just work with my numbers.
Yep. I'm telling you. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I respect people who are just like so like, you know, I love the left brain and the right brain and all that stuff, but like anyone who can literally just like sit there and make something like math or accounting or taxes, payroll, QuickBooks, things like that, who can just understand that, it boggles my mind, but like huge respect. I'm just like, whoa, you're like a genius.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm telling you. Thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
We hit the
thank you for having me.
30-minute mark.
Okay.
Yeah. How can people find you? Because I have a feeling that this is going to be a good episode. I think this is going to be one that people are like very interested in because this is what everybody
hates.
It's what everybody hates, everybody needs, and nobody wants to talk about.
Exactly. Yes. You can reach me at healthyaccounting.org as my website. My phone number is 724-237-5360. Or you can find me on Facebook under Healthy Accounting LLC in Greensburg. And my email is Tricia at healthy. I'll
put that in the show notes.
Okay.
We'll get your email and all the links and stuff like that. But I definitely want people to realize that there is help out there because I am such a huge proponent of taking that leap, going to start your own business. You might not know everything, so you need somebody that does know the stuff that you don't.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and it's been great. And I know whenever I've been listening and watching the podcast, I'm like, I need to meet that person. I want to meet that person.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. I love just bringing people in here to talk about what they do and to get that story. I mean, like, it's so much fun.
Right, I enjoy
just
it
to
too.
learn things about people and later down the road, be like, oh, hey, I know somebody, it's like a little micro networking group here.
Exactly. Thank you for doing this for Greensburg too.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tricia.
Uh-huh.